Okay, my name is Victor. I'm going to be on for this training. Let's continue module one by considering attackers and professional cybersecurity professionals. So it's because we have the danger, because we have susceptibility for attacks, because there's possibility that we're going to have attacks, there's possibility that the data that we have is going to be compromised. That's why we need cybersecurity professionals. Now, we want to examine the players in the space. So you have the different types of attackers. So you have the amateurs, you have the hackers, then you also have some organized hackers. So for the very first one, which is amateurs, you attempt to classify them as script kiddies. So most of these persons have little or no skills. All they do is mostly use tools created by others. They may not be grounded in programming, in software development to create their own applications or scripts. So you classify them as script kiddies, right? Most of the times they're going to be using tools, existing tools developed by others. Then also can classify hackers according to how they do gain access to IT infrastructure. So for white hat hackers, so they break into systems with permission to discover weaknesses so that the security of these systems can be improved. So the goal, at times we call them ethical hackers. So what they do is to break into systems, but with permission. They have permission to do that. So their goal is to see what the black hat hacker is actually going to see, then see all of those flaws and suggest ways, countermeasures in which those things can be patched, those things can be improved upon. Then we have the black hat hackers. So what they do is they don't have permission. So most of the bad guys out there without permission, trying to compromise system, trying to maybe for political, for financial gains, you classify them as black hat hackers. Then for gray hat hackers, it's in between white and in between black. So, but most of the times for gray hat hackers, there are guys that compromise systems without permission, but most of the times they want to report that to the owners, right? And say, oh, I was trying to do some research. This is what I found out about your site and whatever. I've done that like 1, 2, 3 occasions where you just look out for vulnerable applications, vulnerable websites, vulnerable systems. And your goal is not actually to harm. You are reporting and say, okay, these are my skill set. These are my skill set. I found A, B, C, D, right? I could help you fix it. So when people compromise systems without permission, you can also classify them as gray hat hackers. Or at times, white hat hackers that have gone rogue, right? At times you classify them as gray hat hackers. And of course, you have organized hackers. It could be cyber criminals, it could be hacktivists. So hacktivists will actually, they're activists, but they're using hacking to actually press home their demands. And of course, they can be terrorists or state-sponsored hackers. So you have hackers that are sponsored by countries, by governments, by institutions, especially for global relevance or competitive advantage in terms of enterprises. Sorry. Okay. We can also classify threats as internal threats and external threats. And internal threats are one of the most deadly, right? Because an insider it is gone to the employee, an employee that has not been paid, an employee that his rights have been trampled upon, somebody that feels, okay, I should have more, but I'm not having more. So those are persons that don't have character, and they can easily be compromised. And when they become compromised, the actions are more deadly because they have some levels of permission that an outsider is not going to have. So an outsider is going to do a lot of, create a lot of effort, make a lot of inroads to be able to get to systems. Whereas an insider, most of the times is going to be mishandling confidential data, right? So he can facilitate asset attacks by connecting, of course, infected USB or running an application, of course, that he is not supposed to run. And of course, you have external security threats. this threat is now coming from outside. So somebody from outside is now trying to exploit the vulnerabilities within a network or within an enterprise. And anytime you hear the word vulnerability, you're talking about flaws, you're talking about weakness, you're talking about loopholes within an IT system. And at times, they can use social engineering to try to gain access. So social engineering is a reconnaissance and footprinting methodology. So there are several ways you can do reconnaissance and footprinting. You could do social engineering. You could do whois. You could do whois is spelled WHOIS. You could go to whois.com. You could put an IP address or you could put a website. You could see the details of who registered it. You could see details of when that domain or that website or that IP address came into being, when it was secured. You could see maybe when it's expiring and the rest. For people doing things like cyber squatting, that is picking up identities of persons that is not you, purchasing them, keeping them, hoping that when they come, for instance, purchase, that you're going to sell them at a higher price. For instance, Victor Chidi consults.com. That is not your name, right? That is not the name of your company. So, but you wait for when it is expired. If the person is doesn't renew it, it's picked up, it's purchased by somebody else. That's cyber squatting. Or you look at somebody's name or brand, you register it, so it's categorized as cyber squatting. So all of these things I mentioned are several social engineering, or rather several reconnaissance and footprinting methods. Okay, there's a chart here. Cyber attackers. So you have outsiders, you have insiders. So for outsiders, you could classify them according to if they're organized, if they are hackers, or if they're just amateurs. Okay, cyber warfare. So cyber warfare, when people fight, that's the word, yes, over the internet, right? So it's just warfare over the internet. So most of the times it's going to happen for infrastructure, for government, for institutions that have a whole lot of their stuff over the internet. If you have your healthcare, if you have your power, your grid, if you have your telecoms, if you have your what's it called, your healthcare, your educational system, your identity management system, and whatever, if you have them online, it then means adversaries, nations, competitors, they might want to have that as their target. So what have we learned in this module, this first chapter? We've understood what personal data is, the characteristics and the value, either personal or organizational, and what is going to be the impact of a breach, right? It can be theft, it can be business discontinuity, it can be some people might have their intelligence, their intellectual property being stolen, and several other things that can be an impact of a cyber breach. And I said, one of the things the security analysts want to do is to do risk assessment. We're going to learn that in the cyber threat management, is to do that. Once you do that, you now know what and what to take care of at every point in time. And of course, we looked at motives of an attacker and the ethical and legal issues facing cybersecurity professionals. Of course, you want to do things within the ambit of the law. You have the PCI DSS regulation, payment card industry regulation. You have the GDPR. Most countries adapt it to their national general data protection regulation. Then you have, most countries have Cybercrime Act or Anti-Terrorism Act. So you want to check that for your country and make sure that you are doing whatever you're doing within the law, right? Okay, I think that's all. So thank you very much for listening. See you in module 2. If you've not subscribed, if you've not shared, if you've not commented, if you have questions, please use the comment section. Thank you very much.